Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I'm joined by Brian Bride, Director of Payroll Operations. How you doing, Brian?
Doing pretty good, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, too. Fortunately, I don't have a headache. I've had a headache recently, but I understand that small business and payroll in general causes some big headaches, especially as you scale. So obviously, if you're a small business owner and you're just taking care of yourself, payroll is pretty easy, right?
Yeah, one person payroll, pretty straightforward.
Yep. But once you add that first employee, that's when things really change.
Sure. So if you're considering adding a second, third, fourth, or fifth employee, it changes your cost structure. It changes your rules for the kind of leave policies you have to offer. It changes a lot of things. So some of the things when considering hiring somebody or maybe adding benefits is the actual cost of adding an employee.
Well, can I pause you for a second?
Sure.
And we're talking one employee, right?
One employee.
Okay.
Right. So let's say you're going to add an employee, just one employee. So there's some payroll costs later that we'll talk about more specifically. But when you want to add an employee, think about all you have to go through. You have to post a job ad, right? There's marketing for that, right? You have to pay to advertise. Maybe you hire a talent acquisition company because you're a company one and you need another full-time person, but you're so busy that you need to hire somebody for you. That costs something. The other thing is you have to make a decision how fast you pull the plug. So if you hire somebody, how fast do you decide if it's going to work out or not work out? All that can really add up on the cost wise, right? So it's not exactly payroll specific, but it's something to do like, hey, I need to add an employee. I have other costs I really need to think about. Also for benefits, right? So let's say you have 49 employees. When you get to 50, then you have to offer benefits because you're an ACA applicable large employer. Other states, if you go from 4 employees to 5, you're eligible to to offer more benefits. So in some states, there's like a domestic policy, right? Domestic abuse policy. If somebody's being abused, you have to like give them time off, right, to take care of things. Sometimes that triggers when you have 4 employees, but not necessarily 3. So like Michigan has a sick leave policy. When you get above 5, you have to offer different benefits than you do if they have less than 5, right? So it all can really change depending on how many employees you have under you.
Does it also take into account how many are full-time versus part-time?
So some of those sick leave policies do not, but ACA it does. So that's a full-time employee. So if you hire 2 part-time employees, that's 1 equals 1 full-time.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So there's so many, like, hang or add a person, I really need a person to do work, like figuring that out can really add a lot of expenses and complexity to your business.
Okay. And so a lot of these things are things small business owners should really discuss with their payroll people in advance.
Payroll person, your accountant, your team, just to be like, all right, I'm going to add a person. And what does that look like?
Well, and the conversation is drastically different when you say, or I'll put it this way, when you call them and say, hey, now that you hit your 50 employees, we need to have this. And they're like, what? Versus, hey, I'm going to I need to add my 50th employee. What are we looking at?
Right.
Or again, they just need to have that awareness in advance.
Correct. So whenever you have a new hire, it's always great to be like, okay, how does this affect me? Or how does it affect me and everything? Especially depending on what system you use for payroll. So maybe you're a one-person company and you're kind of paying yourself after the fact where you're just like writing yourself a check and your accountant's deciding, okay, I'll take the taxes out on your Schedule C. When you started to hire somebody and they're employed, you probably can't do that anymore. You could, but you're going to make a lot of mistakes, right? So let's say maybe you have 2 or 3 employees and you're doing payroll on a spreadsheet and you're writing checks every day, every week for payroll. Let's say you're adding another person. Are you at the point where you can't do that anymore because you're going to have compliance issues? And if you're looking at attracting talent, right, as above, do you have the tools, right? Do you need a applicant tracking system because you're going to expand from 3 employees to 50? Like there's so many things to think about.
Well, and as far as the hiring component for a new employee, they don't want to work for somebody who I don't know if I'm going to get my check. Am I going to get the benefits that I should from any other place? There's a big difference between, let's say you work for a chain, like a fast food chain, right? These are all big companies, but every building is technically small, right? They'll have like 20 employees, right? Do you want to work for a mom and pop shop that doesn't have their stuff together and you're not getting all the benefits that you are allowed to get, regulated by the Fed or the state or whatever? Or you can just work for a chain where everything is already, buttoned up for you. You just show up and you're guaranteed to get what you're supposed to get.
Right. Even you go work for, a smaller company, at the YPD, we're like 8-9 people, right? So if I'm coming on board and I don't have that same experience, right? I don't have the self-service app. I'm not talking to the manager ahead of time, doing stuff like that. That can really cost your business for really attracting talent, right? People want the self-service. They want to be able to onboard themselves.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. What else do you feel like is really something that is probably the biggest thing that causes headaches?
Sure. So like the payroll data is going to really help you budget for the costs, right? From remove the fact for like how much it actually costs to get an employee. When you get them in the door, it's not just their pay, right? If you pay them $50,000 a year, it's not just $50,000 a year, right? It's $50,000 a year plus the cost of Social Security, Medicare, so that's another 7.5% that you put on there. Any other kind of cost for like benefits, right? Generally, if you're single, the company will pay some of the benefits for you. So let's say your premium is $600 a month. A lot of times it's half, so that's another $300 you're paying. So that's another $3,600 on top of the $50,000. Any kind of accruals for time off. So like if you're in a state that you have to pay out PTO when they leave, that's an accrual you have to keep track of, right? So all those things like go in there, and you can really see by looking at your payroll software. So if you have an employee that's already making the same amount, right? So let's say you're hiring employee number 3, you'd be able to look at, all right, I'm going to pay them the same amount. How much does it actually cost me in my payroll system, right? From the billing, the invoicing to benefits, you'd be able to look at it and say, all right, actually to hire 50,000, it costs closer to 80. Right. So that's really, really important to know. Like when you want, all right, am I going to have enough revenue to cover this new person? I know I'm swamped, but if I'm going to get $40,000 in revenue for $80,000, that's not really a great decision.
Oh, you're right. I do want to pause because we've talked about family members quite a bit in previous podcasts. How does this change for a family member, or does it not change at all?
So it can change because there's things you can do. That's more on the accounting side. We really defer to them when they add a family member, because there's a lot of nuances with how the businesses are structured. So that's really another advantage of Kaizen YPD is, you go to another payroll vendor that might not be connected to an accounting firm. They're going to be like, they're just going to add them as an employee, right? You might have other ways around. You might be able to add them as an officer, pay them a different salary, pay them a different amount because you've talked it through with the accounting side in order to actually add somebody that you can leverage that relationship, right? You can leverage all the laws, and you can take the exemptions and the benefits that you're allowed.
Okay. So as far as a payroll end, there's really nothing particular about them. They're still going to get all the same benefits and such that a normal employee would get. Where it is on the accounting end, it's more like, hey, they're going to get certain tax benefits. Like, hey, they don't have to pay the FICA tax or something like that.
Yeah, so some states, if you're really young, you don't have to. They're going to help you with the federal, what they should be filling out for their W-4 and things. So
okay, but in the end, payroll is payroll.
Payroll is payroll.
You show up, you get paid.
You get paid. Yep, that's
and
right.
If there's enough of you, you get benefits and such too. All right, what else are we not covering?
Right, so so what tools you can put in place, right? So maybe you're a team of one, you're expanding, right? Somebody wants to come work for you. They want the self-service onboarding. We touched on this. They want to be able to look at their mobile app and say, all right, I can request this time off. They want the benefits. They want a seamless system where when they log on, they can say, all right, I can enroll for my benefits right here. I'm not filling out 15 pieces of paper. It's even though you're a one-person shop, I trust you. You're investing in technology, and you can show that you're on the, not up and up, but you're on board, right, with modern business.
Yeah. Well, again, it is the initial experience, and that does matter, right? and they want to be able to take care of those things themselves.
Yeah.
And, I mean, how many people are getting scammed these days that we've run into? Clients of ours that you get emails from insert questionable name here, and next thing you know, you're down a couple grand.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we had one probably about 3 weeks ago where somebody's email got hacked and they logged on and that was it. So it happens all the time.
Anything else you want to add about growing and scaling?
Yeah, I mean, you really want to make sure you have all the pieces in place before you move forward. So reviewing the way your payroll set up, reviewing what it looks like when you actually add an employee is really, really important. So just to recap that.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, thanks.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.